Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. I'm Chris. In this episode, we're gonna finish mounting up our headlights. In the last episode, we got the mounts for the front of the headlights done. Now we need to mount the back side of the headlights. So to do that, we have to mount a bracket right here on the side of the car that also holds the oil cooler. So we're gonna mount the oil cooler bracket and figure out how that bracket then connects to the back side of our headlight. And that's all on the driver's side. On the passenger side, we're gonna custom fabricate a bracket to hold the back of the headlight. And then once we get the headlights on there and they look in the right position, we're gonna take them back off and we're gonna refinish or resurface both of the headlights. My headlights here suffered from some kind of orange peely badness chipping off of the clear that's on them, and we can fix that. And if you have that at home, this is going to be a really good DIY episode to learn how to resurface your headlights or restore them. Same goes if you have foggy headlights or discolored headlights that are plastic. I'll show you how to do that in this episode. Stay tuned. All right, the first step of this isn't gonna be too hard. It's not rocket science. The front mount for the headlight is right here. That's already been set. So the rear is gonna be somewhere back here, and that's what this piece of metal does right here. This larger piece of metal is the oil cooler mounting bracket, and that mounts to the frame rail. So I know that I need to mount this in here somewhere that fits inside the front bumper. It's gonna roughly bolt up like this, then bolts to the clamshell like that, and actually bolts to the bottom of the front bumper down here. And once that's all in there and in the right spot, this bracket should fit onto the back of our headlight and put our headlight in the right spot, as well as letting us mount our oil cooler right in the inside of this. So you can't really get this wrong because it just won't fit if you get it wrong. And if everything fits, then you got it right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a piece of angle iron and figure out how to build a mount to mount this thing in the right area. All right, so I built this bracket to replace the aluminum bracket that got damaged in the wreck. What it's got is it's got 3 holes here where it will bolt up to the oil cooler bracket, and 3 holes here where it will bolt into the frame rail. So I measured it out, and this piece is gonna go right about here, down here on the frame rail, actually as close back to this hardware as we can go. And so I need to use the rib nuts that we used earlier for this thing. And I'm gonna go ahead and drill out and place 3 rib nuts for this to go right here, and then we can bolt this into the frame rail and the oil cooler bracket into this new bracket. Okay guys, my apologies, but I forgot to hit record when I was bolting this stuff up. So I drilled 3 holes in the frame rail here, one here, here, and here, and I put rib nuts inside them, and then I threw some bolts through this new bracket that we made. From there, I've just real loosely just threw the 3 bolts through our bracket on this side into our oil cooler bracket. Let me zoom this out a little bit for you. And so this is just loosely hanging. One bummer mistake that I made is right here. I scratched the paint while I was working with this, getting these things in and out. I scratched the paint right here, but I think it'll buff out. So so this is just loosely sitting in here, and as you can see, you know, the clearances are pretty tight with this car, and I do believe that that's how it came. And well, we'll know when we set this bumper on here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the bumper cover and do a mock fitment. And so this can kind of show you where the headlight bolts in. You have one mount here, and then you have one mount here and one mount here. So while everything's nice and loose, and I'm trying to figure out my fitment, and this actually bolts into here, so it would sit something more like that. While everything's loose, I'm going to grab the front bumper. I'm going to mock fit the front bumper around that and make sure that that's kind of, things are going in the right spot. And then if they are, I can get the correct fitment for it. And then I can tighten down these 3 bolts, which will kind of solidify where this thing sits. All right, bumper's on, bracket's on, the wheel is right there so you guys can see it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it left and right, and we'll see if it hits anything. My hope is that it looks to me like it'll clear, but sometimes, you know, it can be a little deceiving. So let's go ahead and turn it all the way to the right. It's kind of weird with it being on the rollers, it moves the car a little bit. Wow, is that full lock to the right? Guess so. That can't be. Huh, okay, that's full lock to the right. We got plenty of clearance. We have about, I don't know, 2.5 inches at the closest point. Let's go the other way. Yeah, and we're clearing just fine over here. Okay, so we're all good. We got this mount and bracket in the right spot, so I'm gonna go ahead and, unfortunately I have to tear it all down now to paint that bracket that we made, and I'm actually gonna paint the whole entire oil cooler bracket too, because there are some spots where its galvanization has busted off, so I want to get that all rust proof, so everything's going to get a coat of paint on it. Alright, it's the next day and these brackets are painted up and the paint has dried, so I'm done with this side for now. The headlight mounted up nicely, everything's kind of in line and where it needs to go, so I'm going to leave that how it is, disassembled, until it's time for final assembly. There's no point, I don't see any point in bolting it all up, and then I have to take it off to refinish the headlights anyways, and then it has to be all taken off again for final installation. So I'm done on that side. I'm going to move over to this side, which is actually, could be a little bit more challenging or possibly not. So right where we put our bracket last time, there is the air conditioning kind of reservoir, and so this pipe has a crease in it, so I've ordered a new pipe. It's a real small piece. It just runs right into our condenser over here. So this piece is on its way from Lotus. We need that before we can do the final installation on the front end here. That reservoir used to bolt into the frame rail through this piece right here. So this piece actually slides behind it. Can't do it with one hand, but you can imagine this piece sits behind it and it sits into it. It has 2 bolt holes in here. So I'm going to riv nut this piece down to here, put that in here, and then from here I'm going to figure out a way to bolt on the bracket that then goes onto the headlight, which is right down there. So that bracket, when I mocked it up and I mocked up the fitment, that bracket ran right down here and wanted to sit right about here. So I figure if we mount this up, then we can build some sort of mounting off of this piece of aluminum. If I have to weld something up, I can. I got some argon gas from my TIG welder, so I can go ahead and weld to this if I need to. But I'm going to try and do it all with just bolts and nuts for the time being. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. Alright, I had to scrap that initial plan. Basically, this bracket is just too close to this thing, and there's nothing to really work with. It's meant to be used with some Jubilee clips around here and here. So that bracket's just out of consideration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an L bracket. Not an L bracket. I'm going to take a piece of angle iron, go from here to here. We'll put 2 riv nuts in it to make it nice and secure here. That'll bolt into the frame rail there. And then I had to remove the headlight to get enough room. Sorry. From there, we'll do a piece of metal out to the top bracket, and then a piece of metal out to the bottom bracket that are on the headlight right there and there. And there's, because these holes are oval, sorry, camera work. Because these holes are oval and there's actually more adjusting with the oval holes on the bottom, there's plenty of adjustability there as long as we can get some structural metal getting close to it. Not to mention that you can kind of bend the bracket. So yeah, so I'm going to do angle iron right here and here, drill 2 holes in it to bolt it to the frame rail. Then I'll weld 2 pieces of metal coming off that will have holes in them that we can attach the headlight to. All right, our bracket is done. It's always awesome when you weld something up so hardcore and it fits correctly. So this fits just right in here. It's centered vertically and horizontally right between those 2 bolts. So it needs to go right in there. So I'll set it in there. I'll use my punch. I'll punch out my 2 hole spots, and then I'm gonna drill that out and throw in the riv nuts to be able to mount this bracket right there to the frame rail. So it mounts to the frame rail right there with two screws, and then those holes right there on both the sides of it mount up to the bottom of the bracket for the headlight. While I'm in here doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do the riv nuts for the back of the AC reservoir. And that finishes off this. Well, it also needs a black coat of paint, so that's what I'm going to go do next, actually, so it has time to dry while I'm here, and then I'll get to work on riv nutting those up. All right, we got both the brackets installed. The riv nuts are right behind this piece, and then we have it bolted in here and here. The paint's still a little fresh, but that's bolted in there. And then basically once the headlight sits in here, the headlight brackets come down and meet it up right here and here. And I've checked the wheel clearance, and we're all good with that as well. And then I just threw that bracket on there nicely. Okay, it's time to refinish the headlights. All right, so here are our headlights for the Evora, and I just want to kind of go over and show you guys the damage and what we're going to do to repair them. So right off the bat, you can notice the one on the left is a little bit more yellowed than the one on the right, and I believe that's from sun damage on the clear coat that's over the plastic. So what you have here, and one thing that I wanted to point out is you have a clear plastic lens right here with, you'll have like black on the back of the clear, and then there's a clear coat over it. And this is supposed to be a UV protective clear coat, which I believe what happened is it wasn't UV protective enough, and that's what got damaged here and started to peel off. On this one, you can see it's still there. And one thing I wanted to show you guys is the amount of orange peel. It's interesting, even coming from a factory, it's not a glass finish. Look at the reflection as I move the camera, you can start to see the orange peel. So that is the amount of orange peel that the clear coat came with on these lenses. Just something interesting to point out, that they're not glassy smooth. A headlight this expensive should be made out of glass, but I'm not going to get into that. So both of these are pretty badly scuffed up and stuff. This one could probably just be buffed out. Like, you could probably take a polishing and a buffing compound and buff that out, and that'd be okay. But I'm going to resurface both of these. And then this one obviously needs to be redone. There are deep scratches and everything else like that. So I'm going to follow a method that is similar to what Chris Fix did on his channel. Wet sand, you wet sand all the way down to a very fine grit, and then instead of polishing, which a normal headlight restoration kit would have you do, that would just be, they would just have you polish and then say you're done. We are going to spray clear. I have a 2K clear that I bought from a company called Spraymax 2K clear in an aerosol can. We will be spraying that, and then when we won't be able to do it in this episode, but in a later episode we can then wet sand the clear coat and get it even cleaner. But for now, I'm just going to try and resurface it. What that clear coat will do is it adds back in the layer of UV protection, which is exactly why they have a layer of clear coat already on these headlights. If you don't have that, what will happen is the UVs will damage the plastic underneath and the lens itself, it looks like. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to be wet sanding with 400 grit sandpaper to give us a start. All right, we just got done with step one of these. So what we did there was all the yellowing on this light was coming from the top coat. So I took the whole top clear coat off of this light to get rid of all the yellowing. So to do that, I had to use a pretty low grit sandpaper. I used 320 grit sandpaper on a drill to just get those fast orbits. So this is done with 320. Now this one, the clear coat was really clean. So what I did was I just kind of went over it lightly with the 320. Next up, I'm going to do 500, then we're going to do 800, and then we're going to jump all the way up to 3,000. So I'm going to do those all really, really quickly, and then we can move on to the painting stage. All right, guys, so this is gonna get a little bit strange. We're gonna jump around in time a little bit. So last night, I left you guys off. I had just taped up and masked off these headlights. Last night, I went ahead and finished the process, and I sprayed them, and I made some mistakes. So what I did was I came back in today, and I'm gonna go ahead and fix those mistakes, but I'm not one to try and like hide my mistakes and pretend that they didn't happen. I wanna show you guys mistakes, so hopefully you guys won't make them. So I'm gonna go ahead and run that footage now. On the passenger side headlight, I got using the drill as a sanding pad. It was fun, but I got some deep scratches in there that I did not notice, and they went too deep into the plastic. And then so when we painted over that plastic, just that small little scratch, you couldn't even feel it with your hand, but it made kind of a divot in the clear coat, which was really, really obvious when you looked at it. It wasn't a glossy finish, it was like gloss with a big cut in it that it looked like. So that was not okay. So those need to be sanded out. And then on the other side of the headlight, something that I had no idea about. So on the other side of the headlight, we didn't grind all the clear off of the other side of the headlight, we just sanded it down. In some spots, I burnt through the clear that was still there, and it goes down to the plastic. And well, what happens is you have kind of two different surfaces there, and your new clear coat will go over the old clear coat and look shiny, and it'll go over the plastic and look shiny. But in that transition point where you burn through, it'll show a little like ring, and it's really strange looking, and it doesn't look good. So that was no good too. So on the driver's side headlights, I had those rings, and on the passenger side headlight, I had kind of the gouges in the clear. So let me grab the camera now and show you what I'm doing to fix them before we spray them again. All right, so now it's kind of the reverse of last time. If you guys remember, this was the headlight where we went through all the clear, and this was the one where we left the clear. Well, this one now, we just sanded out the gouges in the clear. So we got a nice even coat on the clear that we sprayed last night, which is really nice. So we've sanded down that clear, and we're gonna paint over that clear, and I made sure not to burn through in any spots to leave one of those rings. So there's a clear coat over the plastic that's good quality, good adhesion. We just had some little rings in there, which is bad. So that'll get resprayed. It's down to 500 right now, and we still have to do 800 and 3000. Now on this one, so like in areas like this, we had the ring, and then we had some back there. I don't know if there's still any more that I could find you guys right now. But on this one, I kind of wanted to show you what it looked like. So this was a clear that came on the car. This is the raw plastic. This is my clear on top. And basically, what happened is when I went through this clear and into this, you would just see a ring, like this little transition point almost. It kind of looked like that, and you would just see these rings. So now what we're doing is, you can tell, we're taking all the clear off of what was on the headlight. We're taking the clear off that I put on and getting the headlight down to raw plastic. So that's how I'm gonna fix both these things. I'm gonna finish sanding these things up, and then we can get to spraying. All right, the lights are done being sanded. Next step is we want to clean them off with just a little bit of water and get most of this dust and debris off, and then we're gonna clean them with a wax remover degreaser, which I'm using Prep All for that. So we'll just get these nice and cleaned up, and then the next step is we'll use a tack rag right before we paint. All right, so while these were drying up, I got them all cleaned up. While these were drying up, I sprayed the rest of the water I had on the floor. Dampen the floor will help keep the dust down and stuck on the floor. The paint we're using is Spray Max 2K Clear Glamour. It's got two different parts in this canister. There's a secondary hardener part down here, so you smash this, it mixes the hardener up, shake up your can, you're good to go. So what I'm gonna do is tack rag this down, and then we'll start to spray. I'll show you each coat, but we're gonna do first coat really light coat, second coat really light coat, third coat's gonna go on heavier. Okay, so this is our first coat of clear, and I've set my timer for 8 minutes. I wanted to show you guys the coverage amount. So you can see there's like little speckles of missed spots. We're not spraying it on super heavy here. The paint itself will do a little bit of fogging where it gets thick, but I just kind of wanted to show you that's all you need for the first coat. You're not trying to lay it on super wet. What happens is if you lay it on too wet on your bottom coats, I believe what happens is when the paint kind of stretches out and dries out later on, that can cause cracking when you get too deep of paint. Also, I think a lot of it depends on temperatures. Anyways, that's what our first coat looks like. Our second one will get much more coverage when we go through it. So once the timer goes off, we're ready to go ahead and spray the next coat. All right, I just finished spraying the second coat, and I want to show you guys, let me throw the light on, a little bit of what that looks like. So now you're going to start to see a lot less, well, you'll see no empty spots and a lot finer kind of like texture, I guess you'd say. And over the next few minutes, the coat underneath this and this coat they're going to bond to each other and flatten out even more. Now what I am starting to see is some of the scratches are starting to pop up. This is a problem that I had earlier. Or that I had the last time I tried this. Where are they? Well, I wish I could just say never mind and they're not there. We'll see if they show up later, but if they do show up, I'm pretty sure we can cut and buff those out. So if you have enough clear coat on your surface, you can come back and sand that down and polish that up to a glossy finish. That's one of the benefits of spraying a clear coat. When you do a traditional car paint job, you can do a base coat and a clear coat. You can sand your clear coat out to be like a mirror if you want. So yeah, even as I'm talking, you can start to see this paint like flatten out. The bottom coat and the top coat are mixing together. I don't know if you guys can see those scratches or not on film, but yeah, there are some like little swirly marks and stuff like that, and we'll fix those up after this dries. But okay, so that's it for the second coat. That's what that should look like. And then in about a couple more minutes now, we're gonna spray on our third coat. All right Alright guys, it's been a couple minutes since I sprayed my third coat. I let some of the fog clear. When you use that aerosol, you get a fog in your paint and it evaporates, it off gases. So I'll be really honest about some of the mistakes. I went too heavy on the side stuff and that caused a little bit of buildup. It's very, very, very hard to see. I don't even know if I'll be able to show the camera, but if you look on the left side there's a little bit of buildup. And there's some light scratch marks where you can see scratch marks from underneath from not good enough prep, even though I really tried my best. And there's tiny little dust particles in there. And then on the other side, we have some more intense scratching right around here. That's kind of a bummer. So what you do with that is you let your clear coat dry and cure. And once it's cured, so different paints have different curing times. You have to look it up online. Once it's cured, then you can come in, sand this with 3000, and then you can buff that stuff out. So what the sanding and the buffing will do is it'll kind of level out those real sharp irregularities and make them much harder to see. And so that's what all professional paint jobs do to get that really clean finish. Is, you know, you sand. It's called what's it called? Color sanding or cutting and buffing. I don't know. Anyways, it's what you do at the end of a clear coat, and that's one of the benefits of spraying clear. So after this stuff dries up, we will go ahead and do that, and that'll get us our really nice mirror finish. But overall, really cool. We took off all the crappy looking stuff. We got two headlights that are the same color now, and then we've protected them from like UV damage, anything else like that, and they're good to roll. So, you know, I could leave them like this and they would operate just fine and they look fine, but I want to wait and do that cut and buffing, and I think it's going to look really cool. So overall, huge win in my book. Chris Fix's method for doing this was a real success. All right guys, that's it for our headlight restoration and building of mounts episode. There's a little bit of work left to do on those, but you have to wait for the paint to cure on that. But overall, what we did was we did a good clean restoration of about 4,000 bucks worth of headlights for $20 can of paint. But I mean, two of them, BS for build style. You got to do it once, mess it up, and then finish it the second time. So I spent 40 bucks to restore $4,000 worth of headlights, which is a win in my book. So pretty cool. And I'm excited to cut and buff those out and see how they look in the end. That's about it. If you like BS for Build, you like what we do, and you want to help out by supporting, head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop, pick yourself up a t-shirt, a hat, a key tag, anything like that. All the proceeds of those go directly towards supporting these builds. And if you like BS for Build and you like what we do and you want to follow us in more spots, head over to facebook.com/BS for Build, and we are BS for Build on Instagram. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, sticking it out with us. I hope you guys are all having fun doing your DIY projects back home. Please remember to like and subscribe. Peace!